Hey friends, welcome to the channel. Today I'm picking up with where I left off for the virtual coffee chats. It's been a while since I did one of these and I've actually really missed having conversations with experts in the marketing space and bringing their stories to you. So today I'm honored to have a new guest after a very long time. I'm going to be talking with Aazar Shad, who is a growth marketer who has worked with companies like UserPilot and Vitals and has also founded his companies in the past. He also has a growth marketing stories podcast that we're going to be talking about. I can't wait for you to learn more about growth marketing, what his story is like, how he got into growth marketing, what are some resources that he recommends to anyone who is interested in the space, in this field. Also, I'm going to suggest that you stick around for the very end because I ask him a very important question on his learnings and how he would approach growth marketing and how he would approach his career in marketing differently if he was in his 20s now. And he shares some really important pieces and wisdom for anyone who is now in that phase of their life and journey. And so that is the intro. I'm going to cut it short and let's move on to the actual conversation. Okay, I want to start off with your story, Aazar. So I want to hear how you found your way into growth marketing and what was your journey? How did you hear about growth marketing in the first place? So just maybe tell us a little bit about your story, what you're doing and how you got into this.
Yeah, good question. Actually, not many people have asked me this question. I was a salesperson by profession, and I used to do a lot of cold outreach and cold outbound because that was I was responsible for. And then I jumped into this new way of online marketing, and I thought digital marketing is something similar, but it's a bit different than digital marketing because in growth marketing you're a little bit more like proactive, process oriented, as well as reflective of what's going on. Basically what you're trying to do is in digital marketing you're more performance marketer, like you're trying to do Facebook ads and Google ads. But in growth marketing, they are like there's a metrics called pirate. This is like where you try to focus on every side of the funnel from the point the customer becomes aware of you or prospect becomes aware of you till the point they actually refer you. So you need to follow the entire journey of the prospect and customer to come up with growth levers that can actually impact your metrics. So for example, a lot of people when they start the journey, they start the journey as a performance marketers, but you should not just stop after somebody bought from you. You have to continuously market them after they have bought from you. And that's where growth marketing is really useful because you're not bringing them in the door, but you're actually continuously selling them on a new idea, on a new product, upselling, cross-selling, or you're trying to retain them, trying to delight their entire journey. So they go and talk about you, and then they bring more customers, and it starts again from that awareness.
So you're busy actually paying attention to the whole life cycle of a customer.
Yeah. I also say sometimes that when somebody's hiring a growth marketers, that they are looking for basically a jack of all of everything, and they don't know what is working in their business, so they hire us to figure it out. So
Yeah, it really sounds like it. It sounds like a lot of pressure too.
yeah, because you don't have to just do one thing right, you have to do everything right. And so I personally feel like it's a kind of a job that not for everybody, but if you become a growth marketer, I think it's one of the highest paying jobs in the marketing area, and the most rewarding one because you keep seeing the results and keep seeing your impact to the business, and you will never die of hunger. That's what I feel like.
Okay, I like that. That gives us some prospect into what it is like to become a growth marketer. So what really attracted you to become a growth marketer in the first place?
I would say like I was this guy who was who so usually my positioning statement, even when I'm getting hired, I say I'm the guy who's figuring it out, who's like a problem solver,
Yeah.
thinker, storyteller. I also say I have an OCD with ideas, like obsessive compulsive disorder with ideas. So I just happened to be in growth marketing because I felt like I was taking care of the entire funnel. And I think the reason why I jumped at growth marketing was because I was a founder before. If you're a founder, you have to wear
Mhm.
many hats. If you
That's
have to
true.
wear many hats, then obviously it makes sense to act to take care
Yeah.
of the entire funnel, and then you naturally become a growth marketer because you know knowledge of everything, not just one thing really well. And so,
Yeah.
and also I wanted
Definitely.
to,
That's a good connection. I mean, from becoming a founder to transitioning into becoming a growth marketer, because I feel that happens kind of naturally along the process. You just become one.
yeah, yeah. Well, also one thing that I learned that as a founder, a lot of people were fooling me a lot. So I
Mhm.
wanted to know about everything so I cannot get fooled. And so this is like a counterintuitive way of thinking it, because I'm like, okay, I need to know everything. So anybody who's selling me the idea of this, I need to know that at least some level of understanding, so they cannot just sell me their services without me understanding in depth. So that was another way of thinking it as well.
Mhm. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about what growth marketing is. But if you were to explain it to a very beginner who has no idea what the concept is, how would you be able to differentiate it from any other specialization in marketing?
Yeah,
Curious.
it's a very, very, very good question. So if I let's say I'm a 10-year or 15-year old kid, okay, and
Hmm.
I love solving math problems, but I also love English because I love stories. I love Shakespeare, right?
Hmm.
And if you bring a math person with somebody who loves stories together, who is reflective, who thinks a lot about these things already, um, is somebody who is going to be a growth marketer, because they always are reflective, and they also are thinking from the first principles. So first principle is something where you keep asking 5 times why to a thing. For example, you have a mobile, right? And in the mobile, anything principle, why do you have a mobile? Maybe you need a communication. No, but maybe you need to talk to your friends. And why do you not want to talk to your friends? Because it helps you. So keep asking the question why. And if you're that person who's actually asking a lot of questions why, then you're the growth marketer already. You just don't know it yet.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I think it's important to identify these concepts and like clarify the terminology for new, like for aspiring marketers, for younger people who are interested but don't know what is what, and they're trying to decide, which specialization is for them. I feel there's a lot of terms we use as marketers, especially as we advance in our careers, but then they are not as clear, and the boundaries between where one stops and then the other specialization begins is kind of vague. So I think this helps to understand like what type of skills and what type of person you need to become or be to be successful in growth marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually ties me to my other question, which is, what do you think are the essential skills for a growth marketer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think if I have to go back and think about it, I would say that if I one thing that you need to really do well is understanding the data. So you need to understand data analytics, and in a simpler terms, what I mean is that you need to understand how Google Analytics work, basically,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
understand how, when the user first time hears about you, where did they hear about you, how did they hear about you, okay, and then once they are on your website, what are they looking for, what are the links they are clicking on, are they actually buying the product that you have on the website? Once they buy the product on the website, what happens then? So if you understand Google Analytics, partly you are going to become a better growth marketer.
Hmm.
And the second thing what I will say is copywriting is basically an persuasive way to teach people about your product that can actually make them understand what the problem you're trying to solve, and immediately make them purchase over the period of time. So copywriting is a persuasive way to, it's like, when you watch an amazing TV ad and you say, oh my god, I love that jingle, oh my god, I love that story,
Hmm.
right? For example, copywriting could be just do it. Just do it is the term people came and slogan people came in Nike, was basically kind of a copywriting that was aligned to their mission. And so if you understand copywriting really well, and if you understand data really well, that's the two skills that you just need to know to be a really good growth marketer.
Okay, I have a couple of follow-up questions about this. So, One thing is, would you then say that the successful growth marketers need to have a balance of the qualitative and quantitative abilities to successfully handle what they're dealing with? It really sounds like that, because I want to ask that question because I do get that question a lot from people trying to decide about their specializations. So they say, like, do I really need to be good at math to become a marketer, to do X type of marketing at this company, etc.? So that's a very, very common question. The other follow-up question is, I also feel that with growth marketers, and also with the intro that you did on growth marketing, I feel that one of the other skills that could be really important is an outside the box thinker and the proactive approach to problem solving. So it's, you actually don't wait for kind of directions to come to you, but you are always the one trying to identify problem areas or optimization areas, and you're always like on top of those things. And I think that that's another skill to be kind of to excel at, to become successful. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I would actually just add on top is that I used to suck at maths actually, and I still became a
Mhm.
good marketeer. At certain point, I realized that there is a cost to the business and there is a
Mhm.
profit to the business, and
Yeah.
my job is to keep increasing profit to the business. And if I don't understand profitability, if I don't understand cost, if I don't understand numbers, then I don't understand the business. And if you are in business, not even a marketeer, you need to understand numbers a little bit. It doesn't mean that you need to know probability,
Yeah.
statistics. You need to know data science. No, 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 no. You need to know how to do x minus y is equal to z. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. And if you know this, then you can actually become a growth marketer. I forgot about mentioning a lot of creative ideas. One thing that I can also tell you is that growth marketers have almost perfect balance. I would say all, because, for example, I'm more creative, logical. Some people are more logical and less creative. It's just
Mhm.
like you cannot have a 50-50 balance. So you need to have like kind of like 45 55 balance of, which is creativity
Mhm.
as well as analytical skills. And
Yeah.
if one is good, you can train the other one to be better. If the other one is
Yeah.
better, they can train the other one. It's just
Yeah, I
like,
think that's an important point. You can always train one side to be better, and you can always train a skill, like for yourself to become better at one certain skill.
yeah.
It was also a little somewhat the case for me as well. I mean, I was always good at math, but being good at math doesn't necessarily mean that you will be good at understanding marketing analytics, and being able to read dashboards and make sense of it. So I think that's definitely a skill that I also picked up when I just had more practice with it.
Yeah, yeah. There's no shortcut. You just
Yeah.
have to go through it, and sometimes even your own money in it, then you're even more careful on like what you want.
True, true. What would be the top maybe three things that you'd recommend someone do or take action on if they're interested in growth marketing, but they're just kind of very much in the beginner phase? What would be the first steps that you would take to become a growth marketer?
Yeah. So first of all, I would suggest to start your own side hustle. There is no better way of learning marketing by starting your own thing, and having being 100% owner of it, and trying to analyze from the first time, and trying to understand the business and marketing from the first time. So you can start a TikTok, you can start a website, you can start a blog, you can start a podcast, you can start a YouTube, whatever. Start something that can make you some money on the side, and you say, okay, I'm gonna learn this process over the period of time. So that's one thing. This cannot be replaced. No amount of learning can be replaced by this. So start
Yeah.
something. Start today. So that's what I think about it. Second
Yeah.
one is there is a course. I'm happy to give you the link afterwards. Is by CXL course, which is on growth marketing. It's a mini degree. It's a little bit expensive for people who are not completely bought in growth marketing, or who are early in their phase. But if you have a little bit of money, then do spend either the money on CXL's growth marketing mini degree, or you can spend a demand curves mini degree, and both are really good for you to just get up
Mm-hmm.
to the pace where you understand all the channels, all the marketing ideas that you can start thinking of. So these are like two basic ones. And the
Mm-hmm.
third thing I would say, if somebody wants to be in a that um, is to follow really good growth marketers on Twitter and LinkedIn, and follow their blogs, follow their newsletters, listen to the podcast. You can listen to mine, shameless
Yeah.
plug. And yeah, so basically just keep listening to these people, keep following them, and you will eventually acquire these skills, although you don't know. I wish as a kid I would have followed blogs early on. I would have
Yeah.
learned from people early on. I didn't do it. Um, because I was not practicing. So that's why I said first start practicing, and then you will already find where to go. Just start something, and then you will pick a direction, and you start growing your skills.
Yeah, I fully agree with. I mean, I obviously don't know about the second one. Like, I don't know the courses, but I definitely agree with starting something as a side hustle and learning through the process. That's always something I preach about as well. Whether, I mean, it doesn't matter if someone wants to become a growth marketer in any field expertise they want to become better at. I think that's just the best way to learn. And I think that's something they missed out on telling us when we were in school, like, or maybe our parents too, like when we were growing up. It wasn't something that we were necessarily motivated to do, or that wasn't an important part of us kind of having our education. But I think that's so important to
Yeah, I think
knowing where your strengths lie and knowing what to do.
internet wasn't there as well, so they didn't know what's
Yeah,
going on. And marketing was all about what's happening in the advertising agencies.
yeah,
So we didn't know. And I think the kids now are like much smarter than us, and they already have something in place, and so they know what's the whole digital world is all about. So they are digital native. So yeah, I mean, if you like pets, for example, you can start a Instagram pet page and
yeah.
do that, and like that you will learn something out of it as well.
Yeah, and you're totally right. I think that the younger generations, they are so much smarter and so much advanced than us in terms of, like, I have regular conversations with people who are sometimes in high school, sometimes in the first years of college, or trying to make a decision for college, and they already are aware of a lot of the specializations, even in marketing. Like, they don't only consider marketing as an umbrella concept or area to move into, but even like the details of it. And when I look back to when I was that age, I had no idea.
Yeah, I thought becoming a brand manager is kind of a marketing thing people do and manage
Yeah.
agencies, and that's what all marketing is about. And so it's an evolving learning process, right?
Yeah. Okay. We'll also link those courses that you suggested for anyone who's interested in taking it to a next step. Okay, so another question that I'm actually really excited to know the answer to is, can you tell us about a successful campaign that you've been involved in? Maybe you worked on it, or maybe you observed. It doesn't have to be something that you worked on necessarily, but a good example is always puts things into context, I think.
Well, I do so many campaigns all the time, but I can tell you, like, just writing is like such an underrated thing. I so Here's what the younger kids don't know. Until I did not start my side hustle, which is my podcast, growth marketing stories. I and as soon as I started that, um, I doubled my salary. Right? It's
Yeah.
simple campaign that I ran on myself and then doubled my salary. So starting a side hustle is useful. That's one campaign. The other campaign I can tell you is blog writing. A lot of people underestimate the value of blog and content marketing, and they think that it's not part of growth marketing. It actually is, because uh, search engine optimization or search engine marketing, I would say, is a free traffic that is coming to your website. People are reading your blogs and people are engaging. It's like you are opening your showroom and people are looking at showroom and they eventually buy something, right? And so I personally believe that writing is a very powerful skill that we should all, as a marketer, should have. It's like a must have, I would say. And uh, and we wrote a blog post on there is this Eugene Schwartz model that basically talks about a customer journey. Somebody who's aware is thinking about a problem differently, and somebody who's already ready to buy. So for example, we'll take an e-commerce example, and we take like this bottle. Okay, so I want to have a bottle that is, let's say, has a way to actually give me water from there to here. Okay, I don't want to touch it, for example. That's the product. Usually the person who's starting their journey, they're just thinking about a bottled water, right? They're not thinking about they need that specific water. So that's like understanding of at the awareness level. But somebody who is at the bottom of the funnel, which is below, which is somebody who's already know the solution. For example, there is a competitor of this bottle and is very popular. Could be bottle from Nike, and as a Nike bottled automatic waters, right? This is something who's already aware of the solution, and will be completely differently than to the one who are in the beginning in the journey. And just by knowing that the customer has different journeys while going through their phases, to research and to be at the point where they think they want to buy it, it was a mind blowing to me. And we wrote a blog post to a competitor, and we just wrote like competitor name words with an alternative. We are an alternative of this competitor. Today I'm trying to promote a product on my sponsor as a sponsor. It's called Oribi, and Oribi is an alternative to Google Analytics. Okay, people who are searching for Google Analytics already, alternative Google Analytics already, they would be great customer for Oribi, and that's bottom of the funnel content. And just by writing a good blog post, that single blog post which I wrote for one of the competitors, drove 500,000 in recurring revenue every year, just by being on top of the search engine. And this is super simple. I didn't pay anything. I think I paid like $400 for writing a good blog post about it, and that's it. That's what I did, and that blog is actually converting so many customers. It was converting so many customers, we actually said, okay, let's run ads on it as well, right? So it was a simple campaign that we ran, worked out pretty well. And but there was a caveat to it. The caveat was that our product was a really good product, and it was a really good alternative. And so these are two things that you need to remember. This is just one campaign, which is a search engine campaign I ran, and worked out pretty well for us. And I think that blog post is single biggest driver of my career growth as well. So yeah, don't underestimate SEO or writing.
Yeah, agreed. I like that example actually. Just you sometimes underestimate the power of doing one thing, or working on one campaign, working on one task, whatever it could be, and that could actually be the whole like milestone, or from that point onwards everything changes or shifts for you. We talked a little bit about your podcast already, you mentioned, so that was one thing that I wanted to ask you. So I think you launched it last year.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm curious, like, can you tell us how that's going? That's been your side hustle. So how is that going? What has that I guess taught you? And what can we expect to hear about or learn on the podcast for new listeners?
Yeah. So my podcast is a little bit for advanced learners who are already aware of growth marketing, and they are looking to get inspiration. And in the growth marketing, there's a word that you will hear a lot called growth hacking. And whenever you do content marketing, you need to have a David and a Goliath. Like, you need to have somebody who you're standing up against, so that people can listen to you, people can pay you attention. It's the same way one of the famous political leaders in US was standing on something against. I'm not going to name him, but he was standing against a lot of bureaucrats, and that's why he won the election. It's like the same example here. And so I'm standing against growth hacking. Growth hacking is a very short-term way of thinking how to do marketing, and you find one hack that can actually give you explosive growth, which is actually not possible, because even if you do it, that will be only for one time, and then you have to still run the business forever, right? So my podcast idea is basically for growth marketers to learn about different people's story. And instead of an interview, I said, okay, let's jump on the stories, because stories are actually more inspiring. Stories actually transformative, and so they give you of specific tactics. a lot of people focus on tactics as well, and against tactics, because tactics are working today, future might not work. So you have to
So
think
works
from
for one business, but doesn't work for other businesses.
other businesses, right? So the only thing you can take away from somebody's content is that their story, that you can get inspired and go back and maybe apply their mental models and frameworks.
Yeah.
And so that's the entire podcast is all about, like learning from people's mental models and their stories. um, I started last year. I did not have any growth ideas like what I want to do. I just wanted to become a better podcaster. I think a lot of people, they want to start podcast today just because there's a medium now. I think the podcasting is such a engaging medium, not a growth medium. You will not get a lot of people listening to you unless you're too popular like Joe Rogan, but you will engage with a lot of people who are listening you very often. So you will develop a
Yeah.
deeper relationship with people. And so for me, I think I'm now 10,000 downloads so far. I'm on 45th episode. um, I think it's great for my personal learning, because I have also reached the point where I cannot learn more about growth marketing other than talking to people. And I was doing it anyway. I was doing it with a lot of growth marketers and saying, hey, what's working for you? What's your story? Can you tell me any story that worked out for you? And they were telling me these stories. I said, well, I'm doing it anyway. Why not just put it on the podcast and other people can learn from it as well? And while in the process, I became more creative. I started using podcast as a show rather than podcast as an interview process, and just shifting this mindset that it's a show. It's like Hassan Minaj show. It's like the
Mhm.
home king coming show, or it's like I don't know what's a famous show. It's like Game of Thrones, right? Because
Mhm.
like then you have to think about start. You need to think about segments. You need to think about what you want to hook user with, so they should keep listening to you, and you need to keep this curiosity going, because the user, the listener, only has start or a stop button. That's it. It's not like, hey, I'll come back to you, come back to the article. No, no, no. He stopped or she stopped and it's gone. So for me, growth marketing from a personal learning, but the one I told you, one transformation happened was like I doubled my salary with it.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah, that
like,
definitely becomes your leverage when you are having interviews or when you're a candidate, in a candidate position. It definitely becomes a huge leverage, and it's like it's your success story.
yeah, it's my success story. One thing I can tell you that right now, kids today who are still in marketing or learning, trying to be marketeers, they need to have the digital portfolio. So now, when I jump on an interview call, even if I upload my CV, I'm not talking about my CV at all. I'm talking about what the digital projects I created that people can already find and talk about that. So just like half an hour ago before talking to you, the company said, hey, if we have more blog posts that you've written, do send it to us. We will read them as well. And so
Mhm.
or more useful. And so podcast was my way of doing it. I became a creator. I became a show producer. That was something that was not very new to me. And it's a learning medium. It's a medium where I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I can get a lot of ideas from there, but also is a way to express myself, to express my ideas, to have my own voice. And the best part is that when you write a blog post, it can be copied, but a podcast cannot be copied. The podcast
Yeah.
idea, so it's a voice that is very unique to you, and that's what I loved about having a podcast as well.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Good explanation of, I guess, also the benefit of podcasting as well, starting your own podcast show. I mean, I think the fact that you mentioned you're finding your own voice and a medium to express yourself, that's also been a similar journey for me with YouTube as well. Putting a face to the content that I create, kind of, and I focus on this a lot, but like humanizing content creation and building relationships and all of that. That was also how I guess, found my own voice as well. It just became our journeys, which is also my success story too. And I completely agree with the point that you said. You can double your salary just by starting your own side hustle and using that in those conversations. So lots
Yeah.
of benefits, but that's just, I guess, a couple of them.
Yeah, and also one more thing, AI can take care of blog writing, but they cannot take care of YouTube making and
Yeah.
podcasting, right? So that's something that like the people are already saying AI will take our jobs, but like it cannot never take my job or your
Yeah,
job. And
it cannot take over you, right? Your personality, your voice.
so that's something also an advantage to the podcasting, because you still need to tell it in a story way, and that story
Yeah,
way is very hard for AI to do it because AI is not human. So
yeah.
that's where we still have an edge.
Good point. Um, okay, I realized I actually did not ask one thing that I wanted to cover, which is, and then I have a very important question, but a quick one is, what would be a couple of sources, like maybe they could be people, thought leaders, groups, blogs in the growth marketing space that you follow, you get your information from, and you'd suggest to friends who are interested?
Yeah. So there is this guy called Julian. He's even better growth marketer than me. I take inspiration from him. His website is called julian.com. He has written a huge article on growth marketing, and it's very well done. So I would recommend reading that specific open articles that he's written about. Then there is this guy called Brian Balfour. Brian Balfour is a very known person in the software space, and Brian Balfour actually is a great good marketeer, and he has helped HubSpot become. He he took HubSpot to from 110 million to 100 million, something like that. So that's like a inspiration for me. And there's a third guy I would say is a great growth marketer that I follow is Pep Laya. Pep Laya came to my podcast as well, and he talks about how to win and how to do strategy really well. So these are like people I listen to. I follow their newsletter, I follow the podcast, I follow where they go. Like I just have people that I try to keep learning from them. Until I have not maximized the learning, I don't go next. These are like three people I recommend and resources. There's a community called the swipefiles.com, and it's a great community. It's a paid community though, where I actually interact with other growth marketeers. But there's another community called Demand Curve, which is by Julian himself. And so that community is actually free, and it's on a Slack group, and a lot of great growth marketers are there. And just by being in the group is really useful, so I would recommend that. Yeah, so these are the resources I
Okay.
would.
They're great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate them. Okay. And my final and very, very important question is, you had a very successful Twitter thread on this topic. So if people are interested, I will also link that one in the description of this video. But what were your learnings, and what would you do differently if you were in your 20s, and you how would you approach growth marketing then?
Yeah, so it's a pretty counterintuitive, I would say, the way I start thinking about it. Usually, people think about marketing in a very different way. So I'm opening my Twitter thread that I talked about it, and there are like a lot of crazy ideas that I want to double down and share my idea. Um, the first thing is that a lot of people think about when they start their job, they want to work at a bigger company for a big CV, right? And on Twitter, I said like when I was became head of marketing after 6 years of doing marketing. One thing is that a lot of people say to you that go follow big brands because that's good for your CV. I
Yeah.
think big brands are nice to have. Your story is the most important thing, what you tell. And this is something that I realized after like 6 7 years. So that's one thing I would tell you to to focus on your story rather than big brand, because big brands are like nice and good for CV, but that's it. That they don't help you grow. Big brands are like just taking one part of things,
Yeah.
big machine. Um, the second thing is that I recommend people is to, everybody talks about growth hacking. I talk about no, don't do growth hacking, do experiments. For example, if you have a YouTube channel and you are already running a couple of experiments, different content, right? So instead of running one kind of content, if you run 10 different kind of content and 10 different intros and 10 different ideas, that will help you find the growth much faster, because you know what works, right? Social media is about serving the algorithm the right way that actually serve the humans on the other side of the screen, and doing experiment really works. The third thing is that a lot of people to learn coding. They said, hey, you know what? you should go learn coding. If there's a T-shaped marketer, everybody has to know coding. I wish people would have told me go learn copywriting, and it's such a powerful skill. Copywriting invokes emotions, and anything that evokes emotion, right, is making people do something, and that's really big. That's like something that I can tell you. The fourth thing I will tell you is very useful because that's a lot of people can now use is um, so a lot of people reach out to cold email, hey, buy my thing, come to my
Mm-hmm.
podcast, or would you like to jump on a demo call through cold emails? I think I personally use cold email to actually get to know better people than me and build relationships. I'd never so I recently am looking for a new job, and I don't have to apply for jobs at all because there are so many people who are my friends. They say, hey, this company is hiring, this company is hiring, let me
Mm-hmm.
introduce you to them. So building relationship over the period of time is something that I found really useful, and so I would highly recommend to use cold email to like get to know people you're curious about, to know them, to really understand them, and to become their friends. You already, I'm not talking about go find famous people, find people who you want to become one day. And so that would be my advice. And the last one is basically a lot of people say, hey, you should promote your content to this Facebook group, that Facebook group. And a lot of people just say, this is how it's done. Just to join group or post your link, post your ideas, and that's it. I think instead of becoming this link fester, this guy who's posting a lot of links and spammer, if you become part of the community, well, if you are, let's say, if you want to learn growth marketing, if you join the serve, instead of posting link and you start becoming an active member, you will find more growth because people actually will trust you and feel you're an expert. And these are like 5 ideas that I want to leave you with, because I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
give a lot of advice on how to do marketing, but nobody really tells you how to do marketing. These are like secrets I wish somebody would have told me, and I would have had a better life. And but
Yeah.
now, so these are like things I wish I would have known earlier, and that's what I keep telling people as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think if when I also go back to what I would have loved to do differently, they're not necessarily about specific marketing detailed or marketing tactical things, but they're more so about how I approached relationship building and side hustles and mindset on how I work and how I guess, organize work and life and all those kinds of things, rather than more tactical, executional things.
So a lot of things have changed recently in growth marketing. The number one thing that has changed is like people started thinking about acquisition, they started thinking about retention as well. So not only bring more people in, they have to retain more people. The more people are retained, the more people will tell about your services or product to other people. So that something has changed. A lot of people thought it's just paid marketing, so like Facebook ads or Google ads, but it's more retention and more like email marketing as well as in community building. That is the biggest shift in growth marketing. Growth marketing definitely in e-commerce is more still paid, but it's also about how to fix that. Another change has happened is like people used to think it's like a conversion rate optimization kind of a role, but now it's much bigger than that. So these are like recent changes in growth marketing strategies, and so you have to become a community builder. You have to become kind of somebody who can understand all aspects of growth, from acquiring customers to retaining and giving them best experience, customer experience, and that's something new. I think the best way to learn growth marketing in 2021 is joining a course, learning all about it, and then immediately, and then I can recommend you 3 courses. If you have no understanding in marketing, go take demand curve course, and if you're working in a startup, take a demand curve course, and on growth marketing that will be useful. The second one is a CXL, which is even much more in depth, and CXL growth marketing mini degree. And the third one I would recommend is Reforge if you're in advance. But since I know you guys are still at early phases, these 2 courses, the first 2 ones, will be useful. I've done I've done a master thesis on growth hacking. I personally believe that, first of all, growth hacking is used in the wrong way. Growth hacking is all about finding this referral loop, like this way to acquiring customers at scale without spending a lot of money. And I think, sure, it's much more in startups than it is in, I would say, in companies, and for sure. But startups, the reason why startups are more growth hacky than companies is because startup has no money, and so they have to find these ways that can get them growth. And in big companies, they already have huge amount of people like spending a lot of money to learn about their customers. And it's totally true, because at certain point when you become so big, you stop listening to your customers, but also you stop doing experiments as well. So I think it's true that startups are more growth hacky than big companies. Very good question, I have to say. If I have to start again, as a career in growth marketing, it's such a broad skill. I would actually go and learn paid marketing, because that's where most people will give you their money to try and test it. But do remember, this is what I've learned with time, is that paid marketing is all about doing the storytelling well, at least on social media, right? So paid social is all about doing storytelling well, introducing a character in very short time, showing the pain at the right amount so people understand and resonate, and then eventually people click on your ad to understand it further, right? So it's all about storytelling. So if you're doing paid advertising or paid marketing at a channel, and double down on it, make sure that you understand paid marketing copywriting and storytelling really well, because that's how you differentiate yourself. This is a good way. I think when you start with paid, you eventually try to understand funnels. You try to optimize the retention. There another way that you can take is content marketing. I would not say SEO, like content marketing. If you get into content marketing, then also it is kind of growth marketing. However, content takes time. Content takes a lot more efforts, a lot more nuance, and you can either take both of them and you will become a full-fledged marketeer, growth marketeer. First of all, it's not true that it only applies to software as a service companies, but it also can apply to any business, right? What I mean here is that, first of all, growth hacking or growth marketing is all about running experiments. This experiment mindset, right? To test a hypothesis and to see if it's working or not, and to see if it's going to help you to grow further. It's about doing mini experiments and seeing what works, and then double down on it. So that's what I think about growth hacking, growth marketing in general. Physical products also works really well. First of all, if you have a physical product, you can have an e-commerce shops, and in e-commerce, this applying a referral strategy from day one actually helps. The other way to think about physical product is that, physical products are actually marketing tools in real life. So for example, this mouse I have, it's from Logitech, right? How can Logitech can make sure that from this specific mouse I can acquire more customers? So one example would be to say, hey, this is a code for you from this mouse, and if you use this code, other person who will buy this mouse as well will get a benefit and a discount code from you. So I'm not only using it, I'm referring it. This is a physical product, and you can immediately get more people to refer same product if you are happy to try other product as well. I think that's just one way to think about it. You appear everywhere, and you get more people to sign up for the things. I think people just limit themselves in physical products, that they cannot do experiments and they cannot run a referral loop, but they can actually do that. And I just gave you a good example, right?